Pembloedd hapus i ti. Pembloedd hapus i'r henci. Pembloedd hapus i ti. Hello everyone, I'm Heather. I am back. I had a slight hiatus after Vlogmas, which was nice, but I just remembered actually I didn't respond to any of the comments yet that I got. I read them because they come on my phone, but then I think, oh, I don't have enough time to answer them now. I'll do it all at once in a thing, and just realized I didn't do that. So if I didn't respond to your comments, I will do that right now. Or maybe later today, or maybe tomorrow. Okay, however, it is the 3rd of January. Our Christmas tree collection does not happen from the council until the 19th of January. So we're still watering it. We're still keeping it up, keeping it lit. Christmas continues until the 19th of January. However, I have stopped eating most of the food I was eating in December and have just narrowed it down to normal foods, like 3 meals a day, which is good. Also, now the main focus of our video for today is my resolutions for the new year have been going well. So the main resolution was my library books, which I will talk about now, roughly. But also there's several other ones on the thing. Hold on. Okay, here's my spread, okay, of various things. Yoga. Okay, I'm going to try to do that every Sunday with Sean and Canton. And I did do it on the 1st of January. Thank you. Thank you. I did come immediately home and get back in bed, though. Feel like it still counts. Bike and zines. Need to fix my bike and have decided. So, Sean and Bert gave me a suggestion for a hobby that I can pick up this year and then abandon by the end of the year after it gets boring, which is zines. So I can just, like, you know, write and publish my own zines. And then maybe in Shelf Life, it's like bookstore in Canton, they like sell people zines. Like, maybe we can do it. And I've already got like a list of potential like zine ideas, and like Anwen's on board. She feels like she also wants to do zines. So first we have to investigate the zine scene by going to Shelf Life and looking at various other zines. Like, we've looked at some online and we feel like we can do it. But so getting my bike fixed and investigating zines, that's one we haven't done yet. Okay, clean every day something. I've not done that yet, but it's only the 3rd of January. Like, give me a minute. Okay, diet food, I've done that. I've stopped eating 4 people's worth of food. Journal every day. I've done that for the 2 days. Take a picture, 1 picture every day, and then like to like put it all in a thing for 365 pictures at the end of the year, and I'm doing okay with that as well. Okay, library books. Let's talk about library books. I have finished my first library book. To be fair, this is tiny. It's like 150 pages, and it's not like full text of a page. Like, it still took me 2 days. I'm not doing that well. Okay, but Heather the Totality by Matthew Weiner. This one was weird. I don't know how I feel about it, especially since going and looking at like reviews and criticisms and stuff online. So Matthew Weiner wrote Mad Men, but he's also got, I think, some sort of potential harassment and or domestic violence thing on his docket, you know, which has, I think, colored the book for quite a lot of people, and for me as well, I think. Heather the Totality. Heather is the daughter of these 2 people who are rich in Manhattan, but like just normal rich, not like super rich like they'd like to be. They feel like they're not as successful as they could be, even though they're quite rich in Manhattan. And their daughter is like the light of their life. She's their only child, and she's so beautiful and so empathetic and just amazing, and she just like absorbs all of their life. Like they no longer have relationships with each other or with other people. Like Heather's just their entire world. And then it sort of runs parallel to this other story, this kid named Bobby, who has like a completely different life. He's like raised by a single mother who has addiction issues in like a really poor area, I think in Pennsylvania or something. And he's incredibly smart, but obsessed with girls in a gross way. Attempts to sort of rape one and goes to jail, like has a situation, like trigger warning for this book. But then he sort of sets his sights on Heather and just like watches her all the time. And then it goes sort of dark from there, but in a weird way you don't really expect. Okay, I'm not going to tell you the ending just in case you do want to read it. I enjoyed it. I think like it's really intensely character based, you know what I mean? So not a whole hell of a lot actually happens. You're just sort of in the minds of the characters. But I quite liked it. I quite liked sort of that intense sort of like, I don't know, character study, like what they're sort of thinking toward each other and sort of their past lives and like their own, I don't know, ideas of themselves and their family and stuff like that. I quite liked it. However, loads of the criticisms were like, Heather is this object. She's a thing to be possessed by everyone. You know, everyone wants to use her, not as a person, but as a thing. And it's gross knowing that Matthew Weiner like has this harassment thing on him. You know, he's a gross person writing a gross book about a girl who's used grossly. And I can see that. I can see that point of view there, yeah, definitely. But also, I don't know, like sometimes, yeah, like, yeah, she is an object. And I'm not like, yay, she's an object, but it was very intriguing to sort of, I don't know, like be in the minds of people who see her as this thing, but don't think that they see her as a thing. Do you know what I mean? They think they see her, I don't know, differently as a person, as like a sort of goddish sort of entity, you know, like raised her above things and people in their minds. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. And I think even after all the criticism I read online, I think it's still 4 stars. Maybe 3.9, roughly. Anyway, first library book down, y'all, okay? I'm now going to go down and pick from my basket the next smallest book, so the next one with the fewest pages, and get started on that. So we're just rolling through it. I'm still off work for another 2 days. There have been things coming into the text chat for work, and I've been muting them. No, it is not time. I'm going to go to Nero in the rain. Let's go. I have a quick question about whether or not you're able to help me with my bike problem. So I have an old bike. I got it from you years ago. And it has the old kind of braking system, like where it just sort of grips the tire, but it grips it at the metal rim part. So it used to work, and as long as it's dry, it still works now. But in the rain, it has now completely failed. It doesn't brake at all. And I'm not even sure if this is something you're able to fix, or if I was to fix it, if it would cost more than the actual bike, in which case it's not worth it. Yeah, okay. If I bring it tomorrow, is that okay? 9 to 5. Oh, banging. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, bye-bye. Guys, I have finished another one because I am killing it. Okay, I finished The Death of Jane Lawrence by Starling. I know that this doesn't look like a library book, and that's because it's not a library book. However, the audiobook version of this book, which I listened to, was from the library, and it was about to expire. It had like 5 days left, so killing it, right? So this book in general, I think it was sort of like loads of people that I heard of who'd read it were like, they love it or they hate it. It's a bit of Marmite, I think, this book. And I still don't know how I feel. I think maybe 3 stars. Maybe 4? No, 3. I think 3. Basic idea is, I think it's like a sort of fantastical type world, but very closely based on ours. It's only slightly fantastical. I think it's like a 19th century-ish sort of situation in like a sort of country that was at war when the characters were younger and now no longer is. So the main character, Jane, she was orphaned in the war. Like, her parents died fighting in the war, and so she was sent to live as like an adoptee to this older couple in a safer part of the country. They did what they could for her, you know. They were generally welcoming and like warm type people, but they're old. There's only so much they could do, so they're gonna go and retire now that she's older, and she has to sort of figure out what she's doing. And she sort of forces herself onto this doctor. Sort of goes to his house and is like, I'll be your accountant, and like, I'm like really good at like books, and I'm really adaptable, and I'm really smart, like I'll work really hard if you marry me. And he was like, I've never met you before. And she was like, please. And in the end, they get married, and she finds out that the guy that she's married has this really creepy, weird secret, and that he works at this surgery in town, but he lives in this like creepy old mansion outside of town and returns there every night. And he said, you're not allowed to stay with me at the house. And she's like, what do you want about him, your wife? He was like, you're not allowed to stay with me at the house. Like, there's something weird and creepy about the house. Anyway, you find out, like, I don't want to ruin it for you, but there's like a lot of ghosties and a lot of spirity sort of stuff, and like dark magic and stuff like that. Stuff I'm generally for. So I think the first half of this book was banging. And if I based my rating completely on the first half of this book, I'd say 5 stars. I think in the second half of the book is sort of where they lost me. First of all, maybe it went on a bit too long. Like, it's not that big a book, but if it had ended like roughly here, maybe it would have been better. Also, I am confused. I think I'm supposed to be confused because there's a lot of sort of psychological stuff. Like, it'd be like, magic doesn't exist unless you accept that magic doesn't exist, and you accept all these other things do exist, and then in your mind, blah, blah, now you've done magic, and then she does magic, and blah, blah. Like, there was a lot of sort of psychological weirdness going on, and like, is this real? Is this not real? Are we all in our heads? Blah, blah, stuff like that. So you're supposed to be confused, but I was maybe a little bit too confused. Like, beyond confused in a good way, if you know what I mean. And also, it just went on and on and on and on for ages. Like, that part of the book was too long, I think. But then I did like the ending, I think. So maybe like first half and then also last 10 pages, I give 5 stars. And the rest of it, maybe like 2 or 3 stars, which brings the whole average all the way the fuck down. I think 3 stars in general. 3 stars? I say 3 stars. Anyway, next one. Right. This one, Djinn Patrol on the Purple Line by Deepa Anappara. This one also does not look like a library book, and that is because it is also not a library book. But the audiobook version of this book I do have from the library, and I think that's the only way I'm actually going to read this book. I've had it for absolutely ages. It's not that big, but loads of people have told me it's nothing like what they expected, and also wasn't very good. So it's made me feel like shit. Like, actually, I don't want to read that. So the audiobook and the forced time frame of it being a library audiobook is going to be the only way I'm able to read this book. So that's the next one, audiobook. I'll let you know how we do. I made an effort. I won't lie. I won't lie to you. It's January. It's dark outside already. It's like 3 o'clock. I've dropped my bike with the Punk Bikes people, and I've had to walk all the way home. Just like walking like a peasant. But on the plus side, look at how cool my new shoes are. Look how cool they look walking. So cool. This spread is obsessed now with like Japanese, Korean, Chinese, like TikTok videos on the internet where they do like aesthetic things where they like have a drink and they like pour a drink and then into like a cute cup or whatever, and then have like cute snacks and stuff. So she's been making me go to like the Asian market around the corner to buy like weird stuff. Today's random stuff sweet potato snack. Whatever that is. I don't know. Fortune cookie, obviously. Some sort of drink? Guava drink? Don't know. And matcha mochis. So we'll give those a go. Okay, I have finished Djinn Patrol on the Purple Line. And I misunderstood what this book was going to be about. Honestly, I, for some reason, don't know why, thought that it was going to be like sort of cute and fun. I think like the blurb in it is sort of something like a child thinks he's a detective, you know, based on detective TV shows he watches. He's like obsessed with them, and he's like, I'm gonna be a detective and I'm gonna solve this like mystery at school, you know, like I'm on TV. And I thought from that I don't know, it was gonna be sort of lighthearted and cute. It was not that. Like, spoiler alert, it was grim. It's like ended up being more about, you know, the hideous, very real threat of child trafficking and murder faced by the children of India's shantytowns every day. You know, like trigger warning, bad things happen to children who are very innocent, and you get to know them and love them, and then horrible things happen to them, which is fine if you're into that. I personally feel like this book was very good, but that's sort of like a no from me. Like, if I'd known that beforehand, like I wouldn't want any spoilers or people to ruin it for me or whatever, but like if there's like a dog in something and the dog dies, I need to know the dog dies because I need to know not to read that book. Do you know what I mean? So trigger warning, like alert or whatever here. Like if you're a person that's like me and you don't want to get to know a child character very well and then them to die, just know that this is not going to be the book for you. Like overall, characters, storyline, everything, like what it's trying to say, obviously, like the message of it. There's like an afterword by the author, and she was a journalist in India, and she did a lot of these cases where children would go missing in these like shantytown parts of India, these sort of like, I don't know, like unincorporated sort of slum bits. Can you say slums? Is that like a bad thing to say? But these horrible things were happening to children. They were just disappearing all the time, and they weren't getting investigated properly, I guess, because I don't know, it's hard to investigate them, and also the police have less of an interest or less of like an obligation to do so. It's a whole situation. I love that she's focused on that and she's brought that to light for me, because that's not something I really ever thought about. And I went down a bit of like a Wikipedia rabbit hole sort of learning about that. So I love that about it. However, if again I had known the various awful things happening to the children for real in hideous ways, I do not believe that I would have read it. I think I'm going to give it 4 stars though, just based on how good of a book it was. I enjoyed the book, other parts of the book. It was only sort of at the end when I realized this book is not ever going to get brighter. It's just going to continue to be dark and get darker and darker and darker. It's only sort of like maybe 3/4 of the way through when I realized that it sort of started to turn for me. So I think I'm still going to give it 4 stars. Or maybe 3. I think I'm going to go with 4. It was enjoyable. I liked it. But I think I need to watch several episodes of Friends to boost my emotional morale. If you know what I mean. Anyway, so there's that one. Next one in the Great Library Projects is Evie Wyld's The Bass Rock. So this one looks delightful. However, I did realize after sort of this jolt, I went looking in my library box for something that was going to be lighthearted and fun to sort of just boost me back, and I realized I don't have any of those. I was not collecting those throughout this time. This is sort of the closest I could get. It's like 3 women, I think they're related, or maybe not related to each other, but related to this area with Bass Rock, like this sort of formation in the area that they can see and they look out on, whatever. It's like an 18th century woman who I think is accused of some crime and killed or something. A post-World War person, like a 1940s woman who's just been married. And then also a person, I guess, in like now time, like modern time, who's having a bit of like a train wreck situation where she's moved there to sort of collect her aunt's things, or sort of like collect up stuff from people that were living there before and sort her life out in its mess state. I haven't read any of this yet, but I'm hoping it will be slightly more lighthearted. At least just not as dark. Or at least no children die, because that would also be just good. We're low-key obsessed with this new game we bought called Ooblets, where these cute little monster dudes follow you around and you can like do stuff.
90. I need for what? And where's the floor paper?
I think you have to go fishing now.
Oh, come on.
Like the lady was on about how you've got to do the fishing.
I'll do fishing after I show these guys my house. Like my house?
It's gorgeous.
I put the carpet, the sofa. Usually it comes out all dirty and nothing. But I put the bed, the suitcase.
I think that the January darkness has closed in. Like, I get quite bad seasonal depression, I think. Like, just gets to a point in the bleakest part of winter when it's just like dark and cold and wet every damn day, and I just lose the will. Don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to get dressed. I just want to be a lump. And I think this week, like last week, I was sort of still doing good. I was like coming off a high from Christmas. I'd stopped eating food. I was feeling less sluggish. Like I was in like a, I don't know, like a get goals started mode. And now it's all closed in. Okay. I've collected my thoughts, I think, about this book now, finally. It took me a bit of time. But basically, it is a Welsh one. So it is from the Wales local interest section of the library. It's my favourite part of the library because there are some dead-ass gems there that no one is talking about. So it is a Welsh one. I'll say that straight out because I feel like some people who watch my Dewi-thon videos, like in March when I read just like Welsh book after Welsh book after Welsh book, you maybe can understand where I'm coming from with this. It is, first of all, weird as fuck. Second of all, super confusing. I'm still not quite sure what has happened. And third of all, super grim. Like sometimes you're just not in a situation where you can handle the grimness. January being one of them, but I think I'm okay. Thank you. Also, it's quite dark. Like an element of actual creepiness. You know, a bit spooky and weird, which I fully enjoyed. And these ones always sort of hit me in some way, like a sort of, like a spank to the face, if you will. And I have to sort of decide then whether it was like a good spank to the face or like a bad spank to the face. I have to sort of sit back with the spank and think if I maybe want it to spank me again. Main character is Cassandra. She wears a spacesuit around 24/7. It's like a movie prop spacesuit, and she wears it around everywhere because she, in her mind, is an alien, and her parents have accidentally left the planet without her to go home to their home planet, but they have to come back for her. Like, they'll beam her up at any moment. So she's prepared at all times. And she's friends with these sort of other characters, say like 4 or 5 other characters in the book. And they're all of them they're like of a certain age, like late teens, early 20s. And they're all on these like 0 hours contracts type jobs, like really like dead end type temporary placements and stuff like that, or like placements that they've been placed in by the government so they can't cut their benefits and sort of shit like that. And the town they live in is dying. It was like made sort of like decades ago or like 100 years ago or whatever by this like dreamer billionaire American like businessman who had this idea for like this perfect town, but when he set it up he didn't think about it properly, or he wasn't like invested properly, and he gave up on it, and now it's just like dying. There's like this chemical plant that used to have jobs for everyone, but now it's just sort of defunct and leaking chemicals into the air and into the forest and the ground and everything, which has caused these sort of like massive bugs to live in the forest and around. And these bugs, like their wings and like the pieces of them and their legs and stuff, go up into the air and like infect the air and everyone around, and cause like all these diseases. but also it infects like the animals nearby. And if you then sort of like eat these animals or whatever, you can like ingest this sort of like poison or like this drug. It's like a hallucinogen called goat. So basically, in a mirror of several sort of rural, sort of South Wales communities, these kids are trapped in this tiny town without any opportunities or any real jobs or anything, and sort of just end up spending the time as they could do, you know, just sort of doing drugs and wandering around and sort of working in crap jobs. It's like funny and weird, like confusing and everything, but also, you know, criticism of sort of our communities at the minute, like what we've done to them, our societies and our culture now sort of infused with this sort of problem, this sort of like dying communities problem. The ending is what caused me to not understand how I feel about it. This beginning was very silly. Like, she just sort of going around, like she's gonna go on a last night out because she's like, they're definitely gonna beam me up tonight, like I need to go and I need to just hang out with my friends, blah blah blah. But the ending was mad. Like, it was really intense. Like I think there was like, I don't know, like I can't tell you obviously because it's going to completely ruin it, but like I don't know what's happened exactly, but what I envision I think has happened like is really intense and deep and has like hit me really hard. It made me think that I need to go back and read the whole thing again to get like the full effect. Like, I think I really loved it, but I think I didn't fully love it until potentially the last like 50 pages, maybe even like 30 or something like that. Like, the ending, I think, is what made me realize that I love it, if you know what I mean. Like, maybe I haven't collected my thoughts. Like, maybe I'm still like confused about my thoughts. Like, I just can't nail it down. I can't nail it down. I can't decide. That's what the Welsh ones do to me. They make me feel like, was this the best book ever or was it shite? Because I'm so confused. And also, was it just ridiculous? Was it just so absurd that why am I even considering that it's amazing? Do you know what I mean? Okay, also, it's super dystopian and weird, right? With like a load of things that don't make any sense, like weird shit. But it's so like enmeshed with normal stuff that like it just sort of blends in and you don't really notice it. It's sort of like a sort of magical realism type thing, where it's like, yeah, this thing is absurd, but like it fits, you know? And I love that. Also, I think it's hugely about friendship, okay? In like a beautiful way, like how the sort of friendships and like the love and like the loyalty to each other is like written into these characters. Like, I loved it. It's gorgeous. But like, is it like friendship written in like a ridiculous way, like a silly sort of absurd way? Like, does it take the piss? I don't know. It's a bit of both. Like, it's just good. I think it's good. I think it's 5 stars, but like in a really weird sort of way. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going with. I think I'm gonna go with 5 stars. Okay, next smallest book in the basket is The Wheel of Doll by Jonathan Ames. So, that one's next. Okay, if you've gotten this far, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, comments, anything to say about the books I'm reading, or the books I'm going to read, or thoughts about potential reads, please let me know. I've missed you all. It's nice to be back in BookTube lands. And I think I'll be back next week with the next installment to let you know how the library project is going.